on video. We are on video now on Facebook.com/Khanna for Kids. And we have a wonderful show today. I am so excited. I can't tell you how excited I am. Everybody, I want you to stay on for the whole hour because we have some exciting things that's going to blow your mind. Angelica is my co-host. She just got in. Hello, Angelica. And
Gary.
I guess I'll do the intro. I just want to say, Dr. Khanna, thank you for starting this initiative. You are a servant of the underserved. You are an attorney and also the champion of the nonprofit organization Voice of the Kids. You started this radio show so that you can let people know, hey, we want to help post-incarcerated youth once they get out of incarceration. Because you know why? The recidivism rate, the rearrest rate is just so high, it's unacceptable. It hasn't changed in 60 years. So what you did was pretty ingenious. You took a look at the 2018 Juvenile Justice Reformation Act and you said there's something missing here. And what was missing is what was post incarceration. They had a lot of protection for pre incarceration, they had protection for people while they're incarceration. But right now, we're at a nationwide recidivism rate of over 55% in 12 months. You said that's unacceptable. You're going to launch this initiative. We are going to be in 3,142 counties in the nation. Count them fast. We're going to have a safe haven house this week. You just announced, very exciting, with help of Valley Anderson and also Carrie Anderson, the first safe haven home in Hamilton, Montana. What is a safe haven home, Dr. Khanna? We know it is a place that we're going to welcome underserved, post-incarcerated youth to hang out, to be with us, to perhaps play games, but we're going to also train them, give them information, and sign them up to be part of the Returning Youth Initiative, which you are now going to help stop the recidivism rate from getting down to almost nothing. Because what you've done is put together a soup to nuts program, a program that starts from the time the person comes out of incarceration through getting him in training, getting him in a home, getting him a job, and having a relationship for 2 years with them. So we're really excited about that, Dr. Khanna, and the initiative. We have a couple of things. We have a lot to go through today. But first of all, I want to do something fun, if you don't mind. And I would just like to highlight our co-host. Our co-host, Angelica Anderson. She won.
Robinson. I love you, Gary. I do.
Angelica Robinson, right? That's what I said. She won 2 film awards at the Michelins, right? What were those awards?
Yes, it was at the Michaud Film Festival this past Sunday here in Los Angeles. It's the very first film festival to come back in person since COVID. The very, very first one here in Los Angeles at the Chinese Theater, the Chinese Man Theater in Los Angeles. And we actually won the Blairisms, my wonderful, wonderful team. They won for outstanding live talk show, vlog, or podcast. And my dear friend Larry Powell won for, and the Gaze team won for outstanding comedic digital series at the Michaud Film Festival in Los Angeles, California.
And there's a wonderful picture of her. You always look fantastic, but you are a very accomplished person. We're so excited about that. Dr. Khanna, I want to just give you a chance to talk, but I think Raphael's on. And Raphael, are you prepared to give us an update?
Always, Gary, always, of course. Well, I first of all, once again, good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Khanna, for giving me such a great opportunity to help so many people. I'm very excited for what I saw in what I saw last week. We had a great week. As a result, I just want to announce that I has been getting messages and call from people within my community, the Latinx community. I'm lining up some interview with Telemundo and a few other network, so we could start promoting the initiative in the Latino community, the Latinx community nationwide, and hopefully soon, Dr. Kana, I'm working with some key players within the Latinx media. They would like to see if you will be open to do some kind of press conference with the Latin media. I guess you have to sharpen your Espanol, your Spanish, so you can reach out and really bring the same message to all the Latinx or the Latinos nationwide that are waiting to hear from you about this wonderful message that you are bringing with the initiative all over the United States. That's what I have for now.
Thank you. Wow, that was great. Angelica, what do you think about that?
Thank you, Rafael. I mean, that's extraordinary. I would love to know if we have any other updates, and if not, we should definitely bring in Dr. Khanna and introduce him.
Go ahead, Angelica.
Well, Dr. Khanna, you are here on the radio. If you can unmute yourself, we would love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us today. I know you are always busy and on the move, and we would love to hear some updates from you.
Well, thank you very much, Angelica. I was muted because I didn't want to open my mouth, and you asked me to open my mouth. That means now I'm going to take over the whole radio right now.
That's okay.
So, well, thank you very much, and I would like to first thanks the audience, and I know the audience has been hearing me for a long time. It feels like it's a decade, and I really want to thank you, entire WPAT, the entire radio station, and also the audience, those who are listening, that we try to bring you every Friday between 3 and 4 all the exciting things. And you have seen this, that Gary was successful to bring the world famous co-host Angelica Robinson here. So she's, as you heard, all the accomplishments she had this last Sunday. I really want to congratulate. I'm very proud of you, Angelica. And also you just said that you are elected as the city council in your community in California. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
And very soon in this radio, I will be hearing that you will be elected as the governor of California. And also maybe, who knows, you will be the president of the United States. So, let's hope for the best, because this is the platform which we would like everybody to get an opportunity, especially the young adults, those who are coming out of jail. And I would like to definitely, encourage everybody to work towards it, because they deserve a good life. And I'm so glad that today in this radio show, my dear audience, we have the most wonderful individual as our special guest. I can't even, tell enough about him. But I want to honor him here. I want to thank him that he could join here and bless this initiative. He is none other than he's the Senator of Maryland, Mr. Antony Muse, and also he is bishop, and he manages 250 churches, if I'm not mistaken, and he has been elected as the bishop of those churchmen. He's a religious man. He's a man of God, and he is with us. So please, my dear audience, listen to him carefully, what he has to offer today and what he has to say about this initiative, because now I feel that Jesus is really leading this initiative and taking us to the next level. And also, I would like to thank everybody, those who were participating and listened to the radio, for wishing me a happy birthday on May 4th. So I feel like I've been very much blessed and honored in this particular initiative, but this initiative is all of yours. It's not only mine. Without you all, we cannot do anything. So, Angelica, thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and I'm going to mute myself again as I'm driving.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khanna. And before we bring on Dr. Antony Muse, I just want to read a couple of wonderful things about this amazing, amazing human. As a young boy growing up in the streets of Baltimore City, Antony Muse learned early that to go anywhere in this life, you need courage, determination, and a resilient spirit. Dr. Antony Muse is a PhD and former state senator and pastor. Also presides over 200 churches. He has more than 25 years of experience in the community, political and business legislation, policies, and development. He has served as a state ethics commissioner, ensuring honesty and integrity amongst holding elected office. Dr. Muse has served 1 4-year term in Maryland House of Delegates and 12 years in the Maryland State Senate. Muse has served on the Senate Finance Committee, working and writing legislation and policies focusing on areas of energy. He also has years of experience in areas of electricity, gas, and oil, things that we all need. He has served on the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee, Finance, Healthcare, and Delivery Committees, as he has chaired the Joint Committee and Fair Practices of State Personnel and Oversight. Muse is married to NBC4 news anchor Pat Lawson Muse. Without further ado, I want to introduce to you Dr. Antony Muse. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, that's
That's your
Dr. Muse.
Yes, very familiar. Very familiar to
better
me.
half.
Absolutely, the better half. That's right. Let me say, I am honored. I am just happy to be with you and to be a part of this today. I am also happy to have met you, Gary, and Dr. Khanna, and know of the great works that you all have done and you've been engaged in. You've been doing it there in one fashion, and we've been doing it here from a legislative and a religious, ways, but it's all the same. How do we save lives? How do we make sure that there's infrastructure and that there is a quality life for those who made mistakes, and that we're able to pool our resources to make sure that they have a haven. And so what Dr. Khanna has done, I'm very proud of what he's done. I've read much about it, and we just want to offer in any way that we can be of assistance from hopefully a number of ways, but how we can help to be a part of this initiative. So again, thank you for having me on, and congratulations to you, Angelica, on what you did. Congratulations on on your wonderful awards this weekend. I know that's exciting, and I know that you're going to go much, much further. Having said that, I'm open to however you all want to proceed.
Well, yeah, let's keep the conversation going. We have so much to talk about with you. I mean, I really, you have done a lot of work on the back end, and you've been in this realm of work on the legislative side for several years. So why is this initiative, Dr. Khanna's initiative, important to you?
Well, I think the one thing that that you just shared with those who are listening, I came up through 11 foster homes. And in those foster homes, many times, because of sometimes abuse in those homes, I ran away and I had sleep on the streets, find food on the streets, and sometimes not because I wanted to, but because I was hungry. I did take bread or whatever food I could get out of a supermarket, and water I could get out of a supermarket. And I often think of this: had I been caught, I would be one of those persons who would not have had the opportunity, probably, to be able to accomplish what little I have. Once you are labeled, once you're in the system, it's very difficult to get out. And so that became very important to me. I was finally adopted by a Methodist preacher when I was 13 years old and was taken into a home. So for the first time in my life at age 13, I had a family, I had brothers, I had sisters, and, in that respect. And so I had the opportunity, but I cannot help but often think, had I been picked up, had I been caught, not because that's what I wanted to do, but it is what it is. But I had a chance to redeem that, and I had a chance to move further from that. And I've given all that I can to make sure that whether they are adults or juveniles, that when people make mistakes, they have an alternative. That's what's been important for me.
Wow. Wow. Gary, were you about to say something? I got so much to ask. Go ahead.
I know. I have so much to ask. Well, listen, I want to save the last part of the show. Dr. Muse, Pastor Muse, Senator Muse, Bishop Muse,
Anthony.
Anthony. We spent about 90 minutes on the phone. I'd like to hold that off to the end because we have a couple of announcements we want to make about what we're doing together. So before we get to that, I just want to get back to the questions that we've kind of have for you. And I guess
well, I have follow-ups to what he just mentioned.
Go.
In terms of, I mean, going through the foster care system and how that has really, I mean, you have probably seen a lot of folks who have been in the foster care system
Yes.
that have also been affected by, you know,
that is
being
correct.
incarcerated, and then the recidivism rate. And so could you speak a little bit about how that kind of ties into, you know, growing up within the foster care system and going into and dealing with incarceration and incarcerated youth?
Absolutely. I was blessed to then serve on the for our county, Prince George's County, the oversight of the foster care system here in our county, and look at some of the strengths and weaknesses. As you said, we meet a lot, and I have met a lot, and I have been, thank God, we've been able to help a lot of those kids who did not get the opportunity, made the mistakes, but then we were able to do legislation and funding for programs and other kinds of infrastructure, jobs, in fact, because some went on and they got in trouble again. And at that time, they were 18 years old, so they were charged as adults. To me, they were still kids, but they were charged as adults, and that would have been a part of what would have been on their record forever. And so trying to correct the system, trying to look at those who age out of the system, where they're going to go. They turn 18, they age out, they don't have a job, they did not get through school. Where are they going to go? What are they going to turn to? And so both with the church initiatives and state and county initiatives, we've been able to do as much as we could to get them into jobs, into housing, so that they can move on. And many of them have great stories of how they've moved on and their success stories.
Since you brought up the churches, I'm really curious to know, how have you, like, because you run over 200 churches. Is that
we have 272 churches that are part of our diocese. Yes.
So how has you running these various churches and ministries, how has that kind of offered or connected with, you know, what programs have you initiated for returning for youth that are like returning from incarceration?
Sure. The one thing that I always remind our pastors is that we exist for the community. If you're in a community, and if you were to close up today and no one missed you, then you did nothing. So you exist for that community. It doesn't matter whether they're atheist or religious. You exist for them. And what is it that you then do that can say to the community, we're here to make sure that we address your issues. And I impress on all of our pastors that you have to have the community involvement. You do have to have the political involvement. You have to engage your members and what, to at least a consciousness that we do not exist as some religious mausoleum here on the corner, taking up everybody's parking spaces on Sundays and giving nothing. But they'll like you a lot better if they understand that genuinely you're there to exist for them. And so we get together once a year at our convention, and we talk about that. We have persons who come in to engage in workshops around those areas and around whatever those social ills are that they may be experiencing, even above and, you know, even in addition to these. What is it that you're doing? What is the program? And they share programs. They share among themselves. They share programs. They share where they are stronger. One church may have a strength and another church is weak in that area. Then we get pastors to move into those areas and help that pastor to resource and to become strong in the area in which they're weak. But at the end of the day, it must be people oriented, and it must be, what are we doing for the community at large?
And so could you give us some examples of how those ministries are
Yes,
serving?
yes. For example, the substance abuse ministries.
Okay.
Those are ministries that will initially connect with the jails, connect with those who are coming out, so that we can get them into substance abuse training. I did a lot of prison ministry. I preached in prisons, those that we adopted, preached in those prisons. And as a result, people have come out. I'm thinking of one now who was also my neighbor, who came out of jail and came out of incarceration, rather, was a returning citizen. And immediately those people in the church surrounded them, helped them to get jobs, because it's hard to get a job. You can't get a job unless somebody who recommends you. And then I performed his wedding, and he's a deacon in the church. I've got maybe 2 pastors who came through that route as well. And years later, they're now pastors on their own. And so between the substance abuse, between the counseling services, we make sure that whether it's clothing, whether it is helping you to do your resume for job interviews. I was instrumental in getting the box so that, at least in the state of Maryland, among state government, they don't have to check the box saying that they've been incarcerated, because they have to at least get in the door. If they get in the door, they are going to be equipped, at least as far as our churches and we're concerned with what we do, to get them through. So that, along with counseling, those are some of the things that we've done.
That's excellent. Just think about that, Angelica. They don't have to check the box that they're post-incarcerated, because a lot of states, a lot of counties, they will eliminate these people right off the bat. So you're getting them in the door. Fantastic.
Get them in the door. And then lastly, I had a second chance. And so I worked on legislation, the second chance legislation, and got passed through the expungement bill that allows a lot of them to be able to expunge their records and to move on and get the scholarships that they don't get the housing that they don't get, because if you've had a record, it's difficult to get housing, etc., and then to get a job. So they can expunge their records as though it never happened. And we got that passed about 3 years ago.
Part of our Dr. Khanna's initiative, when we're welcoming these post-incarcerated youth, is, and we have lawyers to expunge records. So you have experience in that. We may want to tap you when we're dealing with these youth of how we can do that. Because if they're coming out and they're not welcome, what choice do they have?
That's right.
But to go back to their life of crime?
They're going back. Yeah, they're going back.
It's really, I want to share a personal story, Gary, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Very interesting, what you're saying about just really, you're talking about just getting a job. I'm talking about like basic things like a driver, like you can't get a job without a driver's license and a social security card. I actually just had an uncle that got released from incarceration. He was locked up for like 30 years. He just got released on Monday of this week, and just came back home. And like for him to just simply, my family was going to give him a car, but in order for him to get down to where we were to where he was, he had to get a train ticket, and he couldn't get a train ticket without a credit card. You can't have a credit card, without having, a current license and all those other
basic things. Yeah.
Basic things that you would need just to function, just to be able to use public transportation. Like he couldn't even get transportation to get here, to get a free car, to then go and travel to go and get a job. So like basic little things.
That's right. That's right.
People really need help with. And so thank you for your program that you're doing and that you have set up with your ministries. And you also brought into, you were talking about the legislation issues that you were seeing in there. And so, I really want to know, like, how, as you as a senator, you've addressed so many different issues. Can you talk a little bit about some of those bills that you have put into place and move forward?
we worked on, and they just passed it, making sure that in our state that if you're a juvenile, you cannot be convicted. You cannot get a life sentence. That's been very, very important to us. At 18 years old, 20 years old, your brain operates differently than it would when you were 30 or 40. So to have those chances to be able to come out and it's all about starting over again, right? It's all about getting a chance to start. We've been able to take funding and put funding into neighborhoods where there are persons who have given homes so that they are able to provide that kind, again, the shelter and the infrastructure. All that is very important in terms of jobs. Many, if they have that on their record, and some of them, if they're really, felonies that were serious, it's going to be difficult, a little more difficult for them to expunge their records. But we've been able to get other employers and unions, especially unions, to train them to become electricians, and we funded that. Train them to become plumbers. Listen, you can make a lot of money as an electrician and a plumber, more than you can make with a 4-year degree on, but they're able to come out and start their own businesses, whether they are painters, mechanics. So we've been able to direct them where their background won't matter, because eventually the goal is for them to start their own business, get their own license, and to have people to walk them through getting their license. So now they say, I own the company. And so now their background doesn't matter. Now they can get on the job. And then to say to our state government, a percentage of your contracts need to go to people who are now showing that they have the ability to do, they have the background to do it, and now they've got to get some contracts, and you need to have a percentage of that reserved for them, as well as to work with our major employees and developers in the state to say, would you give a number of your jobs to persons who have made mistakes, forget their records, they're proven, we know who they are, would you be willing now to employ them and to have them to set aside jobs? It's been amazing to go to apartment complex associations and to say, I know you say if you're a felon, you can't live here. Well, we'd like to change that. We'd like to get at least 5 or 6 apartments that you can put aside so that they're able to get housing. You understand how that is. And they get housing, now they get jobs, and we're working to perfect that more. I served as the chairman of the Juvenile Justice Task Force. And as a chairman, to have testimonies from those persons themselves to say, here are our issues. Here's why we go back. Here's why we can't become a model citizen, for whatever that means, right? But we can't do that. And so now to take what they have said and to now put it into budgetary and policy and laws, that's meaning.
Wow,
Yeah.
thank you.
Wow.
I just wanted to comment about, thank you for passing that law, not allowing ever a juvenile to get a life sentence.
Correct.
You and I discussed this. There was an individual, unfortunately, who was arrested at 15 years old, and he was incarcerated for 67 years, I believe, something ridiculous like that. He just let out in Pennsylvania. So those are the type of things that we have to put in place nationwide, so that we need to understand that there's an issue in the mind, and we need to stop that issue before the 4th, 5th, or 6th arrest. Many times these young men and women, it's not the first rodeo show. If we can stop it before the second one, we've stopped a bit of crime.
Correct.
Now I wanted to ask, talk to me about the Second Chance Act that you passed.
Yes, the Second Chance Act, it's a bill with many provisions in it. And some was to be able to identify those who are in the system who are having mental health problems rather than criminal behavior. How do you then separate them out and put funding aside for more programs and mental health and not build more jails. One of the problems is that when you look at the system, when it comes to the prison system, you've got to have customers. And so when they come in to build jails, whether it's privatized or not, their job is to keep the jail full. Well, it shouldn't be the job. The job should be how do you empty it and get it out right away. So part of this was to look at not just what did you do, but why are you there? And to know that a number of them were suffering from substance abuse, and the jails are full of people. 50, 60% of them, as you know, who are incarcerated, they have something to do with some substance abuse, whether it was, just marijuana to whatever. And they shouldn't have been in jail. Yeah, and they shouldn't have been in jail for that. They should have been in the program. It's being able to relate to judges. And whenever I dealt with the appointment of a judge, I wanted to make sure that that judge understood that the goal is not to fill up the jails. It's to be able to use this Second Chance Act so that you can now we will put the money aside for you to be able to determine what is a specific problem, what do you need, and spend more money there than you do on individuals in a jail making somebody else rich. The second thing that it did, that was the bill on which I was able to amend my expungement bill. I amended it onto that bill because I thought it was very important, and there was a lot of caught a lot of flack about that. That's fine, but they wanted their bill, and I wanted my bill, and that's what you do. I amended it on, and we got the bill through. And to see the lines wrapped around buildings on the first day, second day that it went into effect, and to get the hundreds of emails that we got of persons saying, for the first time, I feel like I'm a citizen. For the first time, I feel I don't have the guilt. That was a part of the Second Chance Act. Exactly what it was, exactly what it did, was exactly what I feel happened to me. I got picked up off the streets by a neighborhood pastor who gave me another chance, who had 8 children of his own and 2 other foster kids living in the church parsonage, the church that he pastored. In the Methodist church, you get a church parsonage. He's living in the house, and now I'm moving in, and now I've got a family. I had a second chance, and that's all it meant to me. Nothing deep theologically or philosophically, but just that. Do you want another chance? Here's a way that we can do it.
I'm really interested in knowing more about because it's a really big thing. I have a lot of friends, a lot of community members, folks that I grew up with that have been incarcerated and charged as adults when they were under the age of 18, and so, at 15, 16 years old, being charged as an adult, and, people, the lack of regard for a teenager just being a teenager, and I'm talking about non-violent offenses.
Yes,
I'm not talking about murders. I'm talking about, marijuana possession. And now they get,
That's
they get,
right.
and
Life's over for them. That's right.
Yeah. And growing up in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, you get that 3-strike rule, and you're locked up for life for a marijuana charge or for little non-violent offenses. So could you speak to a little bit about, how you were working? I know you touched on the expungement records for those that were charged as adults, but could you expand on that just a little bit more? I really would love to know a little bit more about that.
Almost all of it must be done legislatively. You can have all of the wonderful ideas that you want, and that's one of the reasons I went in. I never intended on being a politician. It was simply one of those, okay, I'll do it. It's sitting in a meeting and saying, okay, I'll do it. But I think more than anything, it is being able to get the legislation and the money behind it. It is being able to get people who really want to do more than have a job at this, but they see it as a part of what they do as a life commitment, a commitment of their life. So it's pulling together, and what we had to do was pull together community, churches. We had to pull together the legislative and come up with some plans in order to make that work. In California, where you are, it'll be wonderful for you look at the stats there to get just a basic expungement bill that will allow people to say, I made a mistake and it's over. To monitor to be able to monitor parole and parole boards and what they're doing and how they are making their decisions when they say, no, you're going back for the rest of your term, as opposed to saying to someone else because they have a lawyer and whatever else, you're out, you're good. It's to make sure that there's equity there. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And in my 20 years of doing this, I haven't learned it all, but I've learned enough to be able to, get what I need to get done. I'm still learning.
Let's move to there's a couple of other things that you have going on with when it comes to funding the homes that take in these youth and the opportunities that the job opportunities for the youth. You actually mentioned electricians and plumbers, yes, and that kind of work. My dad actually has a plumbing company, Retonic Rooter, and he also has an entire program for post-incarcerated people.
That's right.
There and trains them underneath his license to be plumbers and electricians. And so if you could talk about a little bit like the job opportunities and the homes for these returning post-incarcerated people and what your counseling and opportunities do your ministry does with them.
Well, again, what we do is we supply space for training, whether it's unions coming in to train them, internships that will come out of it, whether it's providing the right clothing so that when they go on these interviews, they look the part, helping to do their resumes and going over interviews. That's very important. But I think the one thing that you did mention, and I'll say it again, it has to be a team effort. It has to be a team approach. I had many people with me. I didn't do this on my own, but there were many other colleagues who helped me to convince my Senate colleagues, you either will pay now or you're going to pay more later. So don't give me a fiscal shady answer to why you can't do this, because it's a fiscal problem. You can either do that or you can either pay for them for the rest of your life. Of their lives. So what do you want to do? And it was convincing them. I'm sorry.
What does that financing kind of look like?
Financing into the programs that will help to meet their needs. That's one. Into the programs that will help to meet their needs. Providing internships. We have probably some of the largest businesses in the world are located in the nation, are located here. So it's being able to say to them from the funding, if you do this, there's a tax incentive for you. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Some people are not in it for the good ministry of it. They're in it because if I can make $1, then I'll help you. So then to provide tax incentives for them to be able to employ, to be able to provide housing and apartments, here's a tax incentive for you. For everyone that you employ, here's what you'll get in terms of the tax incentive. So it's a partnership, and it's a lot of creative thinking on the part. My staff has been great. You see me today, but I tell you, most of this is because of the staff that I have, and because my staff is absolutely committed. They're not just there for a paycheck. They've been with me for the entire 20 years, and they, since they were 20, 21 years old, they've been out of college working, and they're still there because they see it as something important. So they come up with creative ideas, and then I just say, okay, what am I supposed to do now? What do you want me to say? They're the real bosses, right? But they have a heart for this, and they push it along, and that's what we need. Our country, and I'll stop with this, they've got to stop seeing incarceration as the answer to all of this. And on the fiscal side, they've got to stop seeing it as a way to make others rich.
Yeah.
The incarceration of others, the food companies, the laundry companies, and the slave labor from those that are privatized. When you privatize a prison, you simply make it a legal slave system here in our country. And that's what they've done. I was able to make sure that our state will no longer have privatized prisons in our state. Not here. You can do it somewhere else, but not here. That should not be the priority, should not be what we're doing.
That needs to be nationwide. That's another discussion.
No privatization, yes.
Well, yeah, I think it's right what you say. If you're told when you can eat, when you can't eat, when you can sleep, when you can get up, when you can walk, when you can get outside, when you can't go outside, you're a slave.
Then you're working for 10 cents an hour. You're working for 10 cents an hour. That's just legalized slavery.
It's also still written in the Constitution. It's the 13th
Correct.
Amendment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's actually in the Constitution.
That's right. You lose your rights. That's right.
And Angelica, and aren't there there's so many synergies I see. Why don't you highlight them between what he's done and what Dr. Khanna is doing on his initiative?
Just getting to that, Gary. Yes, because you had mentioned, I know that your programs, you guys talk about job opportunities, you guys talk about housing, you guys talk about substance abuse counseling and mental health counseling. These are things that Dr. Khanna's program also does on a national level. And so I would love to know, like, how, some ways that we could partner and synergies between both organizations. What are your ideas on that, and or legislative conversations that we could kind of discussions that we could have?
Well, I think we've had those discussions. I was waiting to the end of the show to kind of make a couple of these announcements, if you don't mind, Anthony. But maybe with that introduction, we can move to that kind of portion of the show. Thank you, Angelica. I appreciate that. This is so exciting, and you are a gift of God to us, to Dr. Khanna. As Dr. Khanna said, he prayed to Jesus, the three of us, when we first started this 2 years ago. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working directly with you. We'll figure out some type of title, faith-based interface, whatever it is. But let's start small. Number one, you're identifying a person in your congregation to be the county manager for Prince George County, Maryland.
Right, that's correct.
So that will be, Maryland will become the 11th or 12th state. I think we're in 11 or 12 states. That's fantastic. But we're going beyond that. I'm really, really excited. As you know, Angelica, in Montana, we launched the first safe haven home just last week. Now we are ready to launch the second safe haven home. Dr. Muse is willing to let us share room in his church for a safe haven there. Is that right, Doctor?
That's correct. We have that space, and that space belongs to the community as well as it belongs to the church. And so yeah, you're welcome to use offices and space there. We're also talking to, we'll meet with our board of bishops so that we can ask them in the various states in which they're located if they would locate someone and do the same. A lot of as I said, we have churches here in the States. The number of our churches are in Nigeria and Ghana and Uganda, etc. But my state, my churches that are located here, Alabama, here in Maryland and other states, we are certainly getting in touch with them, Georgia, to say to them, would you find me a person? Here's what we need to have done. But then would you also reach out to your networks? Because our 272 churches, we are part of a larger network. Those are just the churches that have come that are under our umbrella and that I preside over as their presiding bishop. But there are others that we are connected to around the world that we could.
Angelica, I think Angelica, we have, what does Dr. Khanna say? How many states and how many days? What is it?
We're going to 50 states in 60 days.
Say that 5 times fast.
Days in 60 days.
Wow. Hey, we're up to about 11 states. 50 states in 60 days is huge. We're looking to get to all 60 states in mid-June.
Right.
And the simple way, we have a 4-step process. The first step is really simple, and Antony and his network is going to help us. We need a county manager, a volunteer in the county who has a heart for post-incarcerated youth, who has a heart for the African-American community, has a heart for the Latinx community. It's for reducing recidivism, increasing, getting new businesses in there, getting new franchises in there. So we are we're going to be working with Antony I'm so excited. We're going to identify the states that we're not in, and we're going to begin quickly assigning a county manager. So we're going to make that 50 states in 60 days with your help. We're going to do that.
I'll do
And
as much as I can. Yes.
that's all we can ask. That's all we can ask. And we'll have to plan a ribbon cutting and perhaps a banquet for the launching of the Safe Haven home in your location. We have a lot of planning to do. Dr. Khanna will get involved. We have we'll work all those details out. We'll run it by you and run it by the board. I know you were willing to do some announcement this week, but I wanted to be respectful to you because you said you did want your board to look at it first. So I wanted to give you the time to do that.
And you'll be meeting with them on Monday. Yes, with our chief of staff on Monday, and she has a heart for this. She's a wonderful person, and she is the executive over on the church side.
Wow. We'll get that done. We're excited for that. So, 50 states in 60 days. Now,
it can be done.
When you look at what we're doing, Angelica, it's really two things in every state. There is a safe haven, which is an office for your young incarcerated youth to come hang out, maybe play games. We're going to have training there, maybe some coaching, some counseling, some psychological, medical evaluation. But we're going to be interfacing with the lawyers in the county or area, law enforcement, and NGOs, nonprofit organizations dealing with this space, the ex-incarcerated space, but also to sign them up with a program. So what happens once we sign them up with a program? We take the next aggressive step, because what we want to do is immediately when these young people come out of incarceration, or parole, it could be parole, it doesn't make a difference. You're arrested, you're qualified for our program. We want to get you into a home. It's called a home of hope. We're going to announce a home of hope where we're going to place 5 to 10 post-incarcerated youth in that home. And once they're in that home, Dr. Khanna is going to supply them with food, obviously housing. There's going to be a case manager in the house. We may call her a house mom or a house papa, someone to monitor. They're going to be taught life skills. What does that mean, life skills? Clean the dishes, shovel the driveway, cook a dinner, how to make a menu, how to go out and shopping. These are just silly, simple things that once these young people are out in the real world, that they're prepared to do that. How to manage checkbook, how to not get behind on your credit card, all these little things. But then we're going to also get them into training. So we're going to train them for a job, okay? And Antony, you and I talked about this. I was surprised about something when I was interviewing some of these post-incarcerated youth. And do you remember what I said that was surprised us about what they wanted to do when they came out? They wanted to own their own businesses.
They weren't going to work for anyone else, and they weren't going to flip burgers. Yeah, I remember that.
But is that consistent with your experience?
It is. It's very consistent. They know that they're worth more, and I know that they're worth more. And I can even go deeper than that. I've dealt with some of them who how do I say this? I mean, look, if you can run a neighborhood, you can run a business. And I think you know what I'm talking about. You can run a neighborhood.
We had a president who did that, didn't we?
Yeah,
we have talked about this a lot on the show, and we are very clear that someone who has been able to be a corner boy or run, Jay-Z said it best. I mean, if you can be a drug dealer and be successful at that, you can also be an entrepreneur. You literally are an entrepreneur.
You are. Yeah.
All of those business practices apply to the corporate world and within running a business and within being an entrepreneur. Those are actual tangible skills that you can utilize every single day. So we don't frown upon that at all.
Right. It's what do you do and to get there for them to know that I am worth and I'm not going to do that. What can I do? And they're more open when you say to them, do you want to own your own plumbing company? Do you want to own your own electrical company? Are you willing to give 2 years in this apprenticeship program over here that we also help fund? And we get able to say to them, would you train these persons in your apprenticeship program, teach them how to fix air conditioners? When someone comes to my house and they fix a furnace, I wish I had their job when they give me the bill, right? So I'm like, okay, if you can do that, then you're set for the rest of your life. So when they come and they say, no, I don't want to flip burgers. I'm not going to make minimum wage, what it is now is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. What else can I do? If you don't have that alternative, you're going to lose them again. Yeah. You have to have that alternative. And then
federal minimum wage is not livable.
No, it's not livable.
It is not livable.
They're not going to work 8 hours, 40 hours a week and not be able to stay in an apartment. They're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's part of society's fault. And we can only do our part. And our part is catching as many as we can to say there is some hope out here. But that is a major problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree with you, Dr. Muse. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your insight, your wisdom, all the things that you have been doing. Are there any things that you want to share with us, updates that we didn't know? I mean, you've got so many achievements and that things that you've been doing over the past years. Are there other updates that we should know about right now before we wrap up the show and kind of close out?
No, but just to know that we're excited about this initiative, and I want to bring our folks on board because obviously I'm limited in what I can do, but they are experts in those areas as well because they've worked them in so many different areas all over the place. And so I'm excited about that. I am excited. There's some other things that are going on here in our state that we're trying to push. In our state, the policy is, and they're very kind, once a senator, always a senator. So I'm always able to go and do legislation still. I'm able to go and give my bills into do pretty much what I've done for the past 20 years. And I'm sure I'll do other things coming up. But let's start here and let's see how we can bring on the various boards and agencies and politicians that I'd like to at some point bring to the table.
Oh, yes.
And you're from Maryland, right? Right?
Yes,
Anthony?
that's correct.
That is fantastic.
Well, one more thing, Jellic, I just wanted to say, I wanted Raphael to talk a little bit longer. I guess he had to go, and I apologize if I cut him short. But he really is wearing two hats. In addition to being our interface to Latinx community, he also started a business that has 1,000 franchises in the United States. And he's come on board with Dr. Khanna. He says, once we were interviewing these young adults and they were saying, I want to own my business, we didn't even think about that. And it really surprised us. So Dr. Khanna took that back, got in contact with Raphael, and he signed up. So now Raphael, what we're doing, Dr. Khanna is going to be doing is we have a list of approximately 10 different franchises that we want to offer to across the country. Now, not in every county, because we're going to be in 3,142 counties. We're going to be all, but maybe we get one. It could be a landscaping business. It could be a flower business. It could be there's many different things. So that with perhaps some funding for donations, and what we can do is place that business in there, give the post-incarcerated youth a management position, not quite ready to just hand the keys over, say you own this. They may not be ready for that, but we have to bring them along to the point that they can take an ownership position in the franchise. And in that way, we become self-funding. So because the franchise will start funding the initiative itself. And you and I talked about this. We don't want to go to the government every year and say, hey, can we have some more money? Can we have some more money, right?
The money dries up, the program dries up. How do you become self-sufficient? And who else would be the partners to come in and help to get that done? And it can be done.
Yeah.
And that's what Raphael is doing. Raphael Alvarez, we appreciate that. Clem Yaboa wasn't on today. He's the president and the treasurer of the initiative. So he is also the interface. He wears a number of hats. He's also the interface to the African American community. So I just wanted to make sure to give him his due and mention it. And we got about 3 minutes left here. I want to turn it back to you, Angelica.
Thanks, Gary. I just want to make sure that everyone knows, if you have not already, please be sure to visit our website at ReturningYouth.com. Again, that's ReturningYouth.com. You are welcome to donate today. There's click that little donate today button, and please donate to ReturningYouth.com. You can follow us you can follow us at Khanna for Youth. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are on YouTube. So please find us. We are everywhere. ReturningYouth.com or Khanna for Youth. So thank you so much, Dr. Muse. We are
My pleasure. Thank you.
Grateful for joining us today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Isn't Angelica phenomenal? She's wonderful.
Yes, she is. Thank you. Yes,
we're so fortunate to have her and to have you. We are I can't tell you how excited, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and I hope it comes across genuine, because it is. It's such a blessing. I want to thank you for Sharon Drake for introducing us to you. She's done a great job. We appreciate that. We're going to be doing a lot of things together. We're going to be accomplishing a lot. A lot of the ideas and the things that you worked on, we're going to implement into the Dr. Khanna's Returning Youth program. We're going to be taking care of that and making sure that we're doing things like the Second Chance Act, expungement of records, making sure that the recidivism rate goes down, making sure that there's houses, making sure that these young people are not getting arrested a second time. These are all things that Returning Youth is going to be doing. I look forward to meeting you and your staff on Monday. I look forward to making the press releases and coming down, and we want Dr. Khanna to meet your wife and get interviewed. We're really excited about that. We're excited about so many things, and I want to come visit your church. Angelica, why don't you take us out?
I will actually be in DC next month, so I would love to meet up with. I'm a Howard grad. I throw that out.
Oh, we are too. We are too. She's a Howard grad. I did my doctorate at Howard. My dad's a graduate of Howard. On and on and on. It goes for Howard. Yes.
Brothers at Howard too. So I'm very happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you for having Raphael. Thank you for joining us. I know that you have left the show. Dr. Khanna, thank you for joining us. Gary, thank you for leading this charge. And Anthony, I can't wait to catch up with you next month. Hopefully we can
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, that's home. And you know all about Prince George's County. Yes.
I sure do. I'm buying a house in PG County. Pretty Girl County. Don't you worry. I'm getting my house.
There you go.